Alright, so another season of Tier 2 and Tier 3 is in the books. So now we'll be going into the overview in regards to Tier 2 and Tier 3. And we'll be highlighting where everyone finished up in the championship, what were their best moments for each team. And then after that, we will go into the upcoming season for Season 18 of Tier 2 and Season 6 of Tier 3. And we will begin the show on the road right now. Here we go. Fun times on hand. Ironwolf on hand for this overview for the event for tonight's festivities and events. We will be having a great time. So let's get a roll on with this new overview. So, last week, which was the finale for Tier 2 and Tier 3, in Tier 3, Devin wound up claiming the victory, with Scarenzi in second, Not Raz in third, Joe Wilson in fourth, and Killen, hope I said that correctly, was in fifth place. Now, it resulted in Not Raz and Joe Wilson finishing the Drivers' Championship tied on points with 172 apiece, but on countback, Joe Wilson picked up the Tier 3 Championship because of the P1 victories. He had 4, Not Raz had 3. So, unfortunately, that left with Joe Wilson win the championship, and Not Raz just coming up short on the countback. Second time that's happened in RPL history. Let's see. In the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull has claimed their 5th Constructors' Championship in the season, with finishing up with 304 points. Ferrari was in second with 237, and McLaren was in third with 148. Now, let's take a look. So for the rest of them, as we said, sharing it up here, Red Bull was the Constructors' Champions and also claimed the Drivers' Championship as well. Ferrari was second in the championship with 237. McLaren in third with 148. Here, Mercedes was fourth with 132. Aston Martin was fifth with 71. V-Carb finished in 6th with 43. Williams was 7th with 30 points. Haas finished in 8th with 24. Alpine was 9th with 19. And in last place was Kick Sauber, only getting 2 points. So, let's go over a bit of highlights, so brief highlight on how each team did in Tier 3. So, let's go over their best moment. So, since we're on Sauber, well, pretty much their prime moment was their 2 points, which was done by Dylan getting P9 at Baku. That was basically the team's best moment, pretty much, over the course of the season. Now, bear in mind, these best moments for Tier 3 and Tier 2, I did spend like an hour combing through the results, looking at the results and all that stuff, figuring out which one was their highlight and all that stuff. And this could be my opinion. If you think my opinions are incorrect, feel free to say so in the chat or anything of the sorts. 9th place of Alpine. Well, easily that would be VRL Mickey aka Mick, getting a surprise podium at Canada, finishing in 2nd in that event. That is probably the highlight of Alpine's season, but we'll see maybe next season, for the upcoming season, maybe they'll fare better. Well, for Haas, Zandvoort Reverse was a big highlight for Haas, with Resilience coming in P6 at that track. That was a nice highlight for him in that sense. Moving to Williams, they had a string of P9 finishes over the course of their season, and they hope to maybe get better as races progress. V-Carb, Arjun, also again in Canada, getting the best finish of the calendar. They were fourth. They finished fourth in that race with Arjun. Very solid work for him in that sense. Let's go to Aston Martin. In the final two races in both Brazil and in Zandvoort, they finished second in both of those races. Very, very good late surge out of them to wind up securing their fifth place status in the constructors. Very good work for them. For Mercedes, pretty much I think their main highlight was SV getting the pole position at Monza in round 3. One of the main highlights for there. They have like one or two podiums. They've had 2 podiums with 2 second place finishes, and they did have a driver today, but with one pole being SV with a surprise pole. Solid stuff on his end. Let's go to McLaren. We're heading to Baku for their best result. They finished 1-3 at Baku. It was an all Mercedes podium that event, but McLaren shining high, and even though they finished third, can they get better for next season? Ferrari, not Raz, fighting hard, and he just came up short in the Drivers' Championship. He really did his damnedest and did really all he can, but I think he could have gotten the championship, but he was a good fight. He was a hard fighter all the way to the end. And then for Red Bull, Joe Wilson become the champion via the countback. That's probably for Joe Wilson his best highlight for becoming the drivers' champion, and that is something he loved to have happen. All right, so let's go into the new highlights here. So speaking of the championship, let's go over the overview of who is in what for Tier 3 Season 6. So we'll start with the bottom. We'll start with the bottom of the pile, that being the Kick Sauber team. And as for their drivers this season, they got Matty 1929 in the car, and he is partnered with Jim Bob. Jim Bob, a former team principal, and has returned back to RPL a few weeks back. Good to see you again, Jim Bob. And let's see how Kick Sauber will fare. Hopefully they'll get better than 2 points than they did last season. Let's go to Alpine now, as they were 9th in the championship. Academy assistant from Ferrari Academy, Ryan Searles, was leaving the team, and he will be joining Alpine, and is also the new Academy assistant for Mercedes Academy. He will be partnered with Tiro. Now, I do wonder how these two will do, and I mean, Tiro, he has had some colorful things about my comms work, but hey, he's entitled to his own opinion. But let's see how the Alpine pair will fare off. Haas in the 8th place was the 8th place team, and this is an interesting one. 2 former Mercedes Academy pair. They teamed up in the first couple races in last season while they were McLaren. Now they're partners in Haas. Timbed, the Academy assistant from Mercedes Academy, leads the team, and he'll be going to Haas. And Netsky, former Tier 3 driver from Mercedes Academy, is going to Haas as well. So, will the ex-Merc Academy group fare better for Haas's chances? Who knows what will happen? Williams. So Williams has a unique pair. They have Ardell. He'll be in the car. and making his return to RPL Racing. And I actually have no idea when the last time he raced, but it is good to have him back and good to see him back for the track. RPL Savage is making his grand return to RPL Racing. This will be very exciting. Let's hope he does pretty good. Well, your guess is as good as mine. I had no idea what's up with Merc and Ferrari and Merc switching up, but we do know that in Tier 1 Season 14, there is a change in the team principal sort of spec. Invade's not going to be the team principal for Tier 1 Season 14, I believe. Well, I thought it was George that was going to be doing it, but then he left because he's focusing on Le Mans Ultimate. So that means that Cal is going to be going into a spot. Yeah, that is true. That is true, Ardell. Very true. Very true there. Alright, let's go to VCarb. Now, VCarb, they have two new drivers. Now, these guys I do not know much about. We have Zero and Neymar in the car. So, two guys I don't know much about, but we'll see if maybe they might pull some surprises. You never know. Aston Martin. So Aston Martin, they got Jensen Snowy and Gobert. Now, if I remember correctly, last season, Gobert was in the VCarb, but now he's going into the Aston. Or I could be wrong, and Gobert was in Aston and re-signed. I could be incorrect. Mercedes. Now, Mercedes, their pair, we have Bartu, who initially was going to be in the Alpine for Tier 2, but after some talking around and getting people moved about, Bartu did agree he would go down to Tier 2. Initially, we were going to put him into Williams, but he's going to Mercedes instead. So, we'll see how Bartu does in that retrospect. He'll be joined by Alistar. Alistar has re-signed, but instead of going to the Williams, he'll be in the Mercedes for this coming season. Our bronze medal team from last season, McLaren, they have a unique pair. And this pair, I mean, who knows how good they will be. We have VRL Mickey, aka Mick, and he'll be joined by Jake Bandy. That's right, Jake Bandy is back in racing. He was reserved for Ferrari Academy. Now he is back in Mercedes Academy and is going to be in the broken car that is the McLaren. Now the silver medals, the runner-ups in the constructors. Ferrari, they have Bezezio and Resilience. Resilience was in the Haas last season in Tier 3. Now he gets his shot in the top car. Maybe Resilience could become a Grand Prix winner here in Tier 3. The champions. Red Bull. They have Killen, who a couple weeks was one of the P2 result winners from Aston at the end of last season. He is going to be joined by Scorenzi. Scorenzi here and there was in the VCarb and also did time in Aston Martin as well. So this will be a very unique pair. So who do I think is my best pair? Who do I think is my worst pair? Now, worst pair, I would say, and it's only because I don't know too much about them, and that's because I don't know too little about them. I'm going to say maybe the V-Carb of Zero and Neymar. They could be the worst pair, but that is my guess. Now, for my strongest pair, and I might be a little biased here, but I think the best pair is going to be McLaren with Mick and Jake Bandy. Now, these two could work together and make a good cohesive unit. They could be a dark horse going into this event. But we'll see what happens. Now, the Tier 3 calendar. Some of you probably already saw it because it got put up yesterday by EXO. So here is the calendar. Round 1 is Australia. Round 2, Japan. Round 3 is a driver vote, and it's also a sprint event. Yes, sprints make the return this season for Tier 3, and it's going to be a driver vote. So we don't know what track is going to get picked. Round 4, Monza. Then we have Baku for round 5, Silverstone for round 6, Monaco for round 7, Singapore for round 8, a mystery track for the penultimate round. We had the mystery track for round 4 of the championship. It initially was going to be Spain, but then the Spain glitch happened again, so it got moved to Baku. But let's see what the mystery track will be this time. You never know. Who knows? What could it be? Who knows? But the season finale, Abu Dhabi, is the season finale for Tier 3 Season 6. So, that concludes the overview for Tier 3. Let's go to Tier 2. Now, we do not have the official championship standings for Tier 2, and it's mainly because there are tickets that are in there, and the stewards have to go through those tickets, so the points can change. So we had the constructors unofficially, but if they change, stay tuned to our Twitter and our Instagram. We'll have that updated for you if there are changes in the points, and we will have it right there for you. So, unofficially, dead last with a single point is V-Carb. And crazy fact here is that in the 21 seasons. Yes, in the 21 seasons of Tier 2, this is only the fourth or fifth time V-Carb has finished last in the Constructors, but this is their worst performance ever in regards to Constructors. Only a single point. This is their worst finish ever as a team. Ninth place with 12 is Kick Sauber. They have 12 on their hands. Now, this one, tied for 7th, is Williams and Aston Martin. These two teams are tied for 7th unofficially at 23 points. So, we don't know if that tie is going to get broken. We don't know. But they are tied for second. Not tied for second. They're tied for 7th unofficially. In 6th place with 46 points is Alpine. 5th place is Haas with 57. I believe this is their highest finish in the Constructors ever in Tier 2. At an even 100 points, in fourth is Red Bull. Now, Red Bull did not have the best start to their season, because after the first race, they didn't have any points on the board. So that was a bit worrying in that regard. In third place, with 180 points, is Mercedes. And then, the runner-up was McLaren, with 281, which means the Constructors' Champions unofficially is Ferrari, with 287. And that championship, the Drivers' Championship, was won by Reese. Now, let us go into the pairings for Tier 2 season 18 of Tier 2. So, last place was the V-Carb. They have... 2 moments. They have only one driver signed to the V-Carb. That is Tadpole. Tadpole moved from hanging around in Ferrari Academy. He is moving to V-Carb to finish in that sense. So, Tadpole, the only driver in Tier 2 for V-Carb. That is that one there. Kick Sauber. Now, Kick Sauber has Slaja, and moving from Red Bull is Yavas. He is going to be moved into the Sauber. Now, for the ties, for the two teams that are tied, we'll go to Williams next. So, here's the situation with Williams. Their main driver is Night Owl. Night Owl moving from Ferrari to Williams for that season. Very interesting choice on his part. Now for the second driver though, this is where things get interesting. Blonde is going to be in the car for the first 3 races. So rounds 1, 2, and 3 he will be there. But then he goes away. He's going to be on hiatus or doing whatever he has to do. So he won't be available to be racing for a while unless he's available to do so for reserving. But to finish off the season, round 4 onwards, Red Fire Tiger will be jumping into the Williams. Yes, you heard it right. The driver that got 18 penalty points in literally 6 races in 6 races of Tier 1. He just served a 4-race ban and is back to race. But he will be going into the Williams for round 4 onwards. So, I mean, literally, I talked to Red Fire about it. I said, look, you had the pace, but your racecraft is horrible. You need to stop being so aggressive and just work on that and become a better driver. That's why I suggested Tier 2 to him. And he agreed. So, hopefully it works out. If not, I'm fucked. So, Aston Martin has Zakaria in the car. And Tier 3 champion, Joe Wilson, will be partnering him in the car. Solid stuff for that one. Okay. Now, next up is the Alpine pair. Now, Alpine has 2 Tier 3 drivers moving up into Tier 2. We have Dylan and SV teaming up in the Alpine. Now, initially, Dylan was going to be in the McLaren for Tier 3, but he really wanted to be with SV. I don't know. Those two must have some kind of a bromance or something. But they're together in Alpine Tier 2, so we roll with that. Haas! Haas has Alan J, who moves from Red Bull to the Haas car. Again, just like with Night Owl, a unique and interesting change, but let's see if it works out for him. He'll be paired up with midfield Maestro in that car. Now let's go to Red Bull. Red Bull has Torn Penguin in the car. So Torn Penguin back in Tier 2 Red Bull for another season. But he's going to be joined by a driver that has moved from Tier 3 to Tier 2. AMS Devon. Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a surprise too. But Devon moving from Tier 3 to Tier 2. Wild. Let's see how that pair fares out, but I think they're gonna do pretty good. Now, Mercedes. Mercedes has the runner-up from Tier 3, not Raz. He will be partnered with Mintoki. Mintoki, last week's winner in Tier 2 rate in Brazil. She won in the Mercedes car, so she's re-signed, but instead of going to Williams, she'll be in the Mercedes. She gets another opportunity in Mercedes, and a partner with the Tier 3 runner-up could be a good pair. The runner-up McLaren, they retained their driver pair. Maxwell G and Lero Fusion have been retained in their car. And straight up, I believe this is the only team that maintained both their drivers in the same car. And now the champions, Ferrari. So, what could they have done with Night Owl and Reese? With Night Owl going to Tier 2 Williams and Reese getting bumped up to Tier 1? What could Invade think on what drivers he could put for Ferrari? Well, he got a pair, and I think this pair is going to be a good one. He's got Lennon in the car for Ferrari, and he's partnered with Josh 433. Josh 433, a two-time F2 winner, and he did some time in the Haas last season in Tier 2. And I did miss this, by the way, because I completely forgot about that. Forgot about the best moments of Tier 2 for the group. So, Ferrari, since we're on board with them, best moment, winning both drivers and constructors. Probably their finest moments there. McLaren, their best moment, a 1-2 finish at Monaco, following Reese's penalty. But that was, I think, a feel-good moment for the McLaren pair. Mercedes, Mintoki's win at Brazil is probably one of the big highlights of the team's career. It wasn't a final race, but Mintoki made it work to get a win on her belt. Red Bull, Alan J, a couple of P2 finishes for him. Red Bull did not get a win last Tier 2 season, but hopefully with the pair they got, they could get themselves out of that slump and go and get themselves into a win on their hands. Haas, their best moment. 2 P5 finishes at Spa and at Austria Reverse. Two top fives for the Haas pair. Who knows? Could a possible podium happen this season for those guys? Oh, okay. Skither distracted me. I'm very sorry. Okay, so the next team is the Alpine. Their best moment, again with Spa, Blonde, second place on there. I mean, if Alpine wound up getting a win, that would have been a first win in quite a while for the Alpine team. But getting a P2 in Blonde's case, very solid stuff. Aston Martin, their best moment would have to be Zakaria at Monza. Start in P5 and finishing in P6. A very strong run by Zakaria. And, I mean, lo and behold, Zakaria is back in that car, so will work out. I think it might. Williams, their best moment. As a team as a whole, 5 finishes in the top 10. And they had the strongest qualifying. They had their strongest qualifying. That being by SV, who started P4 in that car. P4! Can you believe that? Oh, Williams, row 2 in Tier 2. Hard to believe. Kick Sauber. Their best moment was a string of 3 finishes in 8th place. That was basically all of their points for that season, but to get it 3 times over the season is a very good result in their memoir. Now V-Carb, I would say their only best moment was Jordan getting P10 in Monza, but I mean that was the only point that they got. But I think in V-Carb's case, that would probably be a season they want to forget. Now, let's go with the calendar for Tier 2 Season 18. So just like Tier 3, Round 1 and Round 2 are the same as Tier 3. They will be racing at Australia and Suzuka for the first 2 rounds of the championship. But then everything changes until the finale. Round 3, they'll be at the Hungaroring. Round 4, they'll be at Silverstone Reverse. And it is a sprint event. Crazy. We saw Tier 1 do a Silverstone Reverse. Let's see how the Tier 2 boys do it. And they had it last season too. Let's see if it fares better. Round 5, they're at Barcelona and Spain for their halfway point of the season. Then in round 6, they'll be at Singapore, China for round 7, Bahrain for round 8, Qatar to be the penultimate round, and then the finale, just like with Tier 3, they're gonna be at Abu Dhabi. Now, just before I wrap things up here, what is the best pairing and what is the worst pairing for Tier 2? Well, I mean, if I had to choose which is the worst pairing, I mean, unfortunately Tadpole's by himself, so I really can't say it's the worst pair because he doesn't have a teammate. But if I had to, I would say it would be him. But if I couldn't, I would say the worst pair is probably the Kick Sauber of Slasia and Yavas. So, but that's it. That's like a full two-person pair. Tadpole I can't say because poor guy's by himself. As for the strongest pair, truth be told, I cannot decide between the Red Bull of Penguin and Devon with the McLaren of Maxwell and Fusion. Now, Fusion, I think, maybe has a possibility to be to go for a championship. He has it, but maybe he just try to not have cracks and like crack under the pressure. But with the Red Bull pair of Penguin and Devon, Penguin's got the experience and he can run with the front all race. And Devon, being a strong contender in tier 3 to now being in a top car in tier 2, I mean, he could take that tier 3 experience and turn it into good results in tier 2. So either pair could be a good threat in regards to it. So that is going to conclude our overview for tonight. Thank you so much for taking part. And once this video goes onto the YouTube, feel free to check it out on our YouTube. It's RPL Formula 1. And if you look at the overview, feel free to put in the comments. Who do you think is the best pairing in Tier 2 and Tier 3? Who do you think is the worst pairing? And we will be having some great fun for it. So, stay tuned to Twitch at 8 p.m. UK, Thursday night, when Tier 3 goes live in Australia. And we cannot wait to see you there. Now, it may not be on this one. It'll be on Beatnik's channel. On Beatnik's Twitch. It is twitch.tv/Beatnik714. So that is where our Tier 3 stream is going to be. So feel free to tune into that. And, yeah. And also on our RPL YouTube, you can see all of our past races from all of our history of RPL racing. And you can see that in the list there. Feel free to leave a like to our races. Subscribe if you want to see more of our fun action. But with that all said and done, we are signing off for the overview. Ty and Ironwolf signing off. We will see you later.